I've learned quite a lot, and so I go back wiser. And I hope through it to try and motivate my colleagues that we do better this time, that our campaign must be broader and must bring us more better quality results.
We all know how the blood pressure should be checked daily, but conducting it, when you have a massive turnout of people who'd like to have the blood pressure screened can be quite a challenge. So we'll have to find ways and means how to still do it properly despite these problems.
Certainly in Africa, a lot of the issues that arose last year are common between African countries, and so it's great to see our other people have tackled those issues. So for me it's been hugely comforting and helpful in that some of the things that I sort of was struggling with, oh yes, they've got an idea of how to get around that, or they had the same problem and I thought it was only a problem that we faced.
First thing I learned is the mass screening is absolutely possible. A mass screening with quality screening is also possible.
Yes, when we started it was a blank page. You didn't really know what's going to happen, whether people would get involved, because it's volunteer work. Nobody's getting paid to do this. It's really just for the purpose of the whole study. So that's why I'm so excited now to see the initiatives, the inspiring stories and the energy to go forward and make it even a bigger campaign every year, and to join forces with several companies and other initiatives who are also very passionate about awareness of blood pressure.
I'd like to wish you all an enormous welcome. Thank you all very much indeed. As you'll hear, we had over 100 countries involved with May Measurement Month. Raised blood pressure continues to be the biggest contributor to the global burden of disease and to global mortality, leading to 9.4 million deaths each year. If we just focus on the world, you see 46.5% of hypertensives were aware they had high blood pressure. We need to improve that, 46.5%. It was that underpinned May Measurement Month. That's what drove it. And our aims were these: to highlight the importance of measuring blood pressure, to identify and reduce blood pressure of participants in over 100 countries who require intervention. And our objectives were shown here. We wanted to recruit participants who are aged more than 18 years or 18 and above, who ideally had not had their blood pressures measured in the previous 12 months. So these were not people in hypertension clinics, ideally.
When I see this data, I don't really get a sense of the problems that you face on the ground. And one thing that struck me is just the differences in where these people were recruited. So we had people recruited on doorsteps, from marketplaces, from universities, all manner of places. And whether we can look at that within the data, I'm not sure if we have enough detail there, but certainly when looking at country-specific papers, that's something which would be very interesting to look at as to whether the characteristics of those people differ. We said 100 plus countries submitted data, but after excluding those countries with fewer than 10 participants, we ended with 80 countries exactly, and we had 1.2 million individuals in total. So what we then did was to split up those who have a high blood pressure on treatment and those who are not on treatment. So these are essentially individuals who are not known to have hypertension, who we have found during May Measurement Month.
We have to sit down and make a decision which of the things, of all the stuff that's been generated, what are we going to focus in our main global paper. And as soon as that's got going, then we can get into the regional publications, and then the national publications I hope will come last.
So we asked in the questionnaire, did you receive any funding? And if so, where did it come from? We got a whole range of answers on this one. Some people saying no, but actually a huge number of people saying yes, that they did receive funding and they managed to get it through various different sources. So I've put up here some of the main ones. There was a lot of feedback saying that they got funding from their hospital departments or university departments. or quite a few people saying that they managed to get local businesses or local companies to put funding towards MMM. Also had a few saying pharmaceutical companies and, of course, national societies. We asked in the survey, were you able to take 3 readings from each individual? And if you weren't, why not? So you can see from the survey, very positive results that most people here said, yes, they were able to take 3 readings from each individual. It wasn't a problem at all. There are a few that said they didn't realise that 3 readings were required, which is slightly worrying. Some saying they didn't have enough time to take the 3 measurements. They're actually looking at that and the comments associated with that answer. A lot of those are using manual devices, not the automatic devices.
The data collection was a problem. The fact we are now in January presenting the results from data collected essentially in May tells its own story. We hope that's not going to happen again.
So we've talked about the number of blood pressure measurements. I've just got a couple of examples here, just in terms of the date formats. This is just one example. So the recording of the date, the 11th of May, I mean, you can see all the different varieties down here. That's just a selection. Had 80 different formats of the date, which have to be gone through by Tom and sorted out as to how that's going to be converted into data. This is for people's weight, and it's in kilograms. And if you can't see the numbers, it's about, there's one here, 69,000, 72,000 kilograms. It's just not possible. And obviously when we put that information in, we need to get rid of that then, because it's going to skew the data crazily. But we don't know what those real weights are. So that means that there's data that's been collected that actually we're not getting. So we need to improve the resources we give to you to collect the data, so errors like this don't happen this year. Yeah, that was with the gender question. A lot of the feedback was in different languages, so we had lots of different languages to sort of translate into male or female. But also there were, as I say there, a couple of yes/no answers. So I don't know if you say sex and someone says no, I don't know what that is. The proposal is that we're going to be producing an app that will be able to be accessed online or offline. And it will be available on smartphone or a tablet, which Android or Apple. So that addresses the problem of there not being internet connection at a lot of the sites. We're also hoping to produce an app for a laptop or a desktop computer. So if many of the people doing the screenings are at a site that doesn't have internet, however they have a laptop that they can bring with them, then they can download an application onto the laptop, use that at the site, and again upload it later when they're back with internet connection. We also had some feedback in terms of the time taken to use the app, that there was a lot of repetition of the data entered. So on every single patient, we're asking, where are you? What's the date? And those things are the same. If you're running a screening session on a Tuesday morning, for instance, it's going to be the same answer time and time again, and it takes time to input that. So what we're proposing is for there to be a first page. So when you open the app, start your session, there'll be a page where all the information that is not going to change can be put in once, and then the rest of the information can be put in patient by patient. So that's the proposal. Addressing the problem of people collecting on paper and then having to transfer that information onto the app or onto Excel, obviously hugely time consuming. There is some functionality that we can use that means that any data collected on a paper form we can take a photo of it, or you can take a photo of it using the app, can take a photo of that data, and it will transfer it automatically into the app. So there's still a bit of time, obviously, taking the photo, but the time compared with typing all of that data out and then the mistakes that come with that it's obviously hugely beneficial. The challenge we had last year was, of course, because most people weren't using the app, that meant that we couldn't give out running totals, because that's, I think, what the plan was to be able to send out sort of on a weekly basis to all the country leaders for MMM, this is your running total. However, because most people didn't use the app, it meant that we didn't really have any running totals to present in a lot of cases, so that didn't happen. This year, if we can get more people using the app, because obviously it will be much improved and hopefully it will fit most of your requirements in terms of what you need for an app. If we can get more people using it, that means we then can send out running totals, and there's different options in terms of how we can get that information out to you. A huge thank you to Omron for supplying the 20,000 devices to us and donating them. I did ask the question, do you need extra devices, and if so, how many? Now, the answers that came back from those 76 countries that answered the survey came to 21,992. Now, we don't have that many devices. So this is really a plea to you that we spoke about funding earlier and different sources of funding that you can find. If you are in a fortunate position where you have lots of funding pots that maybe you can go to get extra funding for the project, please do so. And if you can use some of that for devices, that would be absolutely amazing. What we want to do is make sure that the devices that we send out are going to places that wouldn't be able to get hold of them at all if we weren't going to donate them.
Perhaps we should have a minimum expectation of how many we expect to be screened for every device that we give out. Because if there's a request for close to 22,000 devices, and we're targeting something like 1.4 million, so that's only something like 60 individuals to be screened per device. So I think that's too much. I mean, it's not. I don't think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
So if we make a minimum expectation, let's say that for every device that we give out, we expect at least 500 to be screened during the entire month of May. Well, 22,000 devices should give us 11 million individuals to be screened. If we're only targeting 1.4 million, so it's only something like 3,500 or 4,000 devices.
I'm pleased to report that Will Poulter has agreed to be our global ambassador again. So we'll be able to use him to create some media content. But there's also, celebrities that you can use at a local level that can be very relevant to your local countries as well. So as I said, somebody has come in with over 20 years marketing experience, and I've watched, big companies with big branding budgets struggle to immobilize global campaigns. I think what you've done is incredible. And 2018 is really just about stepping up. What's the next level? And we're focusing on two key things from a promotional point of view. One is we want to increase that public engagement and drive that demand so that they want to come to your screenings. And secondly, to really improve our visibility so we create this look and feel that it's this great big campaign that's happening around the world that people talk about, because that will help increase awareness. So we want to really nail our key global messages and make sure they get hammered home so people realise how important this is. And before I go into sort of what we're doing from a main measure point of view, from the team here, I'm sort of very excited to hand over to Servier, one of our industry sponsors, and let them tell us about something they're doing, a media campaign, which I think is very exciting and is going to make a really big difference for us this year.
Mom?
Dad, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times.
Get your blood pressure checked.
Do I have to talk till I'm blue in the face?
What part of go get your blood pressure checked don't you understand?
Dad, I don't care what John's father's doing.
You go get your blood pressure checked.
Remember how your parents used to talk to you?
Now, it's time to return the favor.
Mom.
Dad.
No means no.
and get your blood pressure checked means get your blood pressure checked.
Why?
Why?
Why? Because I say so.
Because I say so.
Because I say so.
And because I want you around for a very long time.
Join Servier and the International Society of Hypertension to make sure everyone you love has their blood pressure checked.
We would like to be complementary to the ASH to help and to make this screening of this hypertensive patient more bigger.
So you can see here that we've got the logo. We also have versions with just ISH in there so that you can use it if you're using it on something very small. But this is the main logo. If you wanted to specifically put your country in, you can do. And we also have a partner logo for people who support us. So it's much more flexible, and I hope you're going to find that easier for using materials. Because as I said, having this sort of global look that's consistent across the world is really important so that it looks like one joined up campaign. Another thing we wanted to do was just get really clear on what our messages are and why this is big and why it's really important. So again, looking at, on a global level, at a campaign level, why is main measurement so important? Why do we want to tell people to go and check their pressure? And at the end of the day, it's really simple. We just want to save lives. And that's what we're getting across in our strapline, a simple measure to save lives. And that's sort of underpinning everything we say. The things that we're planning on providing are sort of building on last year, the artwork for the pull-up banners, promotional flyers, frequently asked questions, lifestyle tips, that's the 10 lifestyle tips, posters you can use, the record card, the participation certificate. We're also new for this year, we're planning to, if people are interested, in creating artwork for a sticker so that anybody who's had their blood pressure checked could have a sticker or a badge. And the t-shirts are the same, so you can continue to use the same artwork for that. Pragmatically speaking, obviously I know budgets are tight and some of you already have materials from last year. We're not saying, right, that's it, ditch it. Obviously, if you've still got stuff and you can still use it, do, because otherwise you're going to have wasted that money. But what I would say is that from now on, anything new that you produce, anything that you send out to people, or if you have to replace banners, please could you use our artwork so that we start to create this sort of global vision.
We've got to get the ethics approval now, please. We want to know about the blood pressure devices, that they're working, and to come back to Judith with realistic requests. Thank you on behalf of the International Society of Hypertension for getting involved, for promising to get involved with MMM 2018. Be part of it and save lives.